case of Sharon Drover. Sharon was born into a poor family with several children. Eventually, Sharon would move out of the home of her birth parents and into foster care. And at the age of 16, Sharon left her foster home in Kelligrews and moved into a boarding house on Livingston Street in St. John's. She was very close with her youngest sister, who still remained in foster care after Sharon left. Sharon would call her younger sister daily, as she was the most important person in her younger sister's life, as well as the most consistent. Sharon was last seen on December 29, 1978. Let's get into the disappearance. On December 29th, Drover left her boarding house on Livingston Street in downtown St. John's to go work the evening shift at McDonald's on Kenmount Road. She finished work after midnight, and it's believed she intended to hitchhike home. Police said Drover made it to her work to collect her last paycheck. However, her paycheck was never cashed. For more than a decade, that's where the story ended. 6 years after Sharon's disappearance, in 1984, the local authorities said in an interview with CBC that they had received 2 anonymous call tips. One person said they saw a body being taken from a tractor-trailer trunk near McDonald's on Topsail Road. Another caller said her body was dumped off the Foxtrap Access Road. Both tips were investigated, but neither led police any closer to finding Sharon. For another decade, there was no leads in the case. That is until the 1990s, when new information came about concerning Drover's last known whereabouts. In the 1990s, 2 brothers came forward stating that on December 29, 1979, they had picked up a female hitchhiker on Kenmount Road and dropped her off on Long Hill, adjacent to the apartment she was residing at. They believe this could have been Sharon. After exiting the vehicle, the young woman was witnessed speaking to some people near the front door of her apartment. The witnesses had the impression that the conversation had become argumentative. Moments later into the conversation, the young woman was seen running south on Long Hill Road. Now, Sharon wasn't reported missing until 46 days after her initial. This resulted in the local authorities' efforts to find fresh evidence being limited. Prior to her disappearance, Sharon had been staying on Belle Island with her biological mother and father for Christmas, but her sister wasn't sure at the time how long she would be there or when she planned to come back to the city. For this reason, she didn't report her earlier. Sharon's foster mother also became suspicious of her. Called Sharon's social worker, who advised it was none of her business as Sharon was of age. Now at this time, Sharon had been living with her boyfriend, a man by the name of Victor, a relationship her sister didn't know about until her sister's disappearance. I couldn't find any evidence as to why her boyfriend, who Sharon lived with, did not report her missing. In 1995, police had new information, which led them to believe Sharon's remains were buried in the basement of her former house. Members of the local authorities and a contractor ripped up the concrete flooring at 9 Livingston Street, where Sharon lived before her disappearance, in hopes of finding Sharon's remains. However, they found nothing. There is still a potential suspect who police still haven't ruled out. While Drover's family suspected her boyfriend had involvement in her disappearance. The police said he was questioned extensively, several times, and was not considered a suspect. The O'Brien disappearance. On November 9, 1996, three brothers, Adam, Mitchell, and Trevor O'Brien, were allegedly abducted by their birth father, Gary Joseph O'Brien. The three boys were 14, 11, and 4 years old when they disappeared, and the circumstances of their disappearance were that Joseph failed to return the three sons to their mother. At 8:30 on November 9, 1996, Gary called Diane, his ex-wife, and told her that he was not going to return the boys. This is where the case takes a turn and gets insane. As her husband told his wife he had rigged his house with explosives and that the home would detonate if anyone entered it. When Diana asked to speak to the boys, Gary told her later and hung up. Diane's sister, who was with Diane at the time, immediately contacted the police. Police were quick to the scene and found that Gary's threats of explosives were in fact true, as they discovered that Gary had set up a makeshift bomb using two 400-pound tanks of propane that would have exploded, destroyed the house, nearby homes, and potentially the whole neighborhood if detonated. Diane described her ex-husband as introverted and resourceful. Diane believes the propane bomb was done in order to create a diversion. Diane also described her ex-husband as having a history of violence, suicidal tendencies, and mental health issues. Almost a year later, in October 1997, an engine assembly for a 1989 Ford Tempo, which may have been from Gary's vehicle, was discovered in the ocean near Flat Rock, approximately 10 kilometers from where the boys disappeared from. No bodies were recovered, and Diane suspects that Gary dumped the engine of his car over the cliff into the ocean in order to deliberately mislead the police. It's been 23 years since Gary and his three sons went missing, and there are a variety of theories. Although Gary's sister suspects that her brother and her nephews are dead, Diane firmly believes that her boys are still alive, stating that Gary may have taken them to a religious commune and raised them in an environment with no access to technology or the outside world. She believes that being cut off from the outside world may have allowed Gary to brainwash the three boys, which could be why they've never contacted her. An unorthodox theory, however, Gary did not seem to be a traditionalist. Adam, Mitchell, Trevor, and their father could be all dead or alive. Gary could have murdered his children and fled the country, or this may have been a murder-suicide, though it would be hard to complete such a complex task of murdering three people and hiding 4 bodies, including your own. Gary O'Brien has been featured on programs like America's Most Wanted and remains one of Canada's most wanted fugitives 23 years later.